Hi everyone, we are Team 21. My name is Kaitlyn, and with me is Lynn, Shelby, and Anne. So, over the course of this semester, we did a very deep dive in women in popular music and a bunch of different sections within that. So, some of our research questions over the semester have been: 1. How are women of color in popular music treated differently than their white counterparts? 2. How have women's images been sexualized within the media's lens to promote popular music? 3. How is the LGBTQ community perceived in the media compared to straight women? So some of the research methods that we use to complete the research of our project is autoethnography and content analysis. I'm going to pass this over to my other teammates to talk more about this.
Okay, so the first method we chose was autoethnography, and essentially the target subjects of this study are members of our group. Since everyone here is a popular music activist and we go to concerts, so we wrote the research questions and asked each other to get a better understanding of our own perspectives. That way, we can link our personal experience to concepts of relevant literature, which allow us to proactively dive deeper into the topic and apply what we have learned. Fun fact, this autoethnography is emerged from postmodern philosophy.
So the second method we chose is content analysis, which is a research method used to identify patterns in recorded communication. So for this, we looked at the top 10 Billboard charting songs from the last 10 years to analyze the music videos and found some really interesting results.
So for the very first topic, as mentioned earlier, we deep dived into how women of color in popular music are treated differently than their white counterparts. And as Shelby mentioned, when we looked at the Billboard top music videos, we found that there were little to no BIPOC women in the charting top 10. And by BIPOC, we mean Black, Indigenous, and other people of color. So I have a very interesting statistic. In the music industry, 35.3% of musicians are women, and even less identify as BIPOC.
Wow, that's insane. I never realized how small the music industry was made up of women, but now looking at the Billboard charts, it's actually so evident that something needs to be done. There's also a massive underrepresentation of women in the Asian community, where Asian American artists face barriers in furthering their music careers and creating awareness. Asian artists receive little support because of racial stereotypes, highlighting the obstacles to being recognized compared to white Americans.
I feel that's so true, especially because I can't even think of a famous Asian American artist. Like I can only think of like K-pop artists that aren't from, America or Canada.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. The only Asian American I thought of is K-pop, like the first thing.
Yeah,
And yeah,
Yeah,
so
that's so true. What the heck?
I know. And for our second point, we really wanted to talk about the over-sexualization of women in popular music. So, a little definition: over-sexualization means to add unnecessary sexualization or to sexualize excessively a person. And in this case, we're talking about the women in the music videos that we watched.
So a lot of studies we pulled from the scholars are expertise in the social studies and gender studies. They all shows that heterosexual female artists are marginalized and over-sexualized in their music video for profit, resulting in cultural appropriation, misogyny, and homophobia. Especially this phenomenon has become more popular in K-pop girls idols and female Latin artists.
So, Anne, how would you describe the meaning of over-sexualization?
Our group kind of go over the 28 music videos from Billboard top 10 songs that feature a lead woman identifying artist, and we were so surprised of how sexualization has been depicted through these music videos. And
Yeah, I was like, oh, sorry.
no, go ahead. But I'm just gonna say that we noticed there is no music video that the women are not dressed in provocative outfits, except for like grade A star like Adele. I mean, she just sang a song and basically we just listen to her voice. But other than that, every other female artist in their music video is dressed in a very provocative way.
Yeah, during my research too, even if the song had like no sexual lyrics or anything, I still found that the women were, dressed sexually, or, there was like dance moves or any type of, like sexually suggestive thing. In most of the music videos we watched, there are a lot of scenes that take place, intimately in a bed where two individuals are half naked or, performing sexualized dance moves and wearing extremely revealing and sexy outfits. One of the things that we noted in our research is that Black women are the most over sexualized out of all the races. So, for an example, Nicki Minaj, most of her songs do contain sexualized elements, which, leads to creating stereotypical and hypersexual expectations among Black artists and especially Black female presenting artists.
Yeah, that's such a good point. Like, even when songs are considered clean, they usually have like a music video where people are like half naked in them. So, like, do you think she's famous because of her physical appearance or more about her songs? I feel like that definitely does create a stereotypical and hypersexual expectation for especially Black artists.
Well, in my opinion, Nicki Minaj, I do believe she's very talented, but it goes like hand in hand, especially being in the hip hop genre.
Yeah, I definitely agree.
Diving into the K-pop industry, Summer Kim Lee also researches in the K-pop industry where women are forced to act and behave in a certain way to appeal to the male gaze.
Yeah.
Whoa, that's crazy.
And you can just go into a random Korean restaurant and see the alcohol advertisements where female idols are the ambassadors. When I was a kid, I watched these K-pop music videos or the K-dramas, and I also always see the female are advertising the alcohol, and I don't know why.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, from my knowledge of marketing and celebrity, I personally view that female artists or celebrities often fall into two categories. They either abide by the feminine beauty standards and caters to the male gaze, whose products follow the public's demand, or they behave according to their true self and their products or promotions or services only conveys their thoughts and feelings.
That's so true because you have like people who are models on like alcohol campaigns and they're all dressed up for the male gaze. But then you also have artists who go like completely against it. Like, I don't know if you remember Billie Eilish's commercial with Calvin Klein, where her whole part of commercial was not to be all dressed up half naked, but to be wearing her Calvins under her baggy sweatshirt.
I feel like Calvin Klein has recently taken that stance, and they've also been using a lot of like body positive models that aren't just, like size zero.
Yeah, like body positivity and also like going more of a gender neutral kind of advertising or promotion so that they don't get into any sensitive controversy.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's very
totally
true.
agree. Yeah, they're kind of just like waking up to all of this stuff because I feel like it's super important. And I think after so long of a push, we're finally getting to a point where we're seeing the representation we never had, which is just great.
It's always good to see.
Mm-hmm. And to our next part, which is the a very interesting topic. It's called queerbaiting. So in the autoethnography, we raised this question about commercialization of queerness, also known as queerbaiting. The term was introduced by Joseph Brennan in 2018. We'll get back to a more academic definition of this later. And I believe this was question 9 in the interview questions. So the answers came in, and most of us agree with the fact that this is happening from a viewpoint that over sexualized feminism. The media often tries to push a normal scene into becoming like a questionable sexual oriented relationship or if there's a scene of lesbian sex in any form of media, you will quickly notice that it is unrealistic and tailored to the male gaze. I mean, this is my personal viewpoints, what I've been noticing from the music videos and the movies that I've watched. What about you guys?
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, like, queerness in general has turned into a huge fetish. It puts gay women like myself in like an awkward situation where we're being like fetishized on the screen, but then like also subjected to homophobia. It's really weird. What do you think, Kaitlyn?
Yeah, I also can completely agree to that. It's like in the media, lesbianism, two women, even if they're, like bisexual identifying, two women together it is over sexualized, like once again, going back to the point. But then, queer women in real life are treated so poorly and are often the ones that are victim to vicious attacks in the streets. So, yeah, the answer kind of shines a new light onto the problem. I
Yeah,
realized
totally.
I realized I was thinking of this in a more negative way. Lynn actually brought up the notion of pinkwashing, which refers to the social media support for the LGBTQ community. Probably that explains the media push of like a normal scene into becoming a questionable sexual oriented relationship. So, anyways, back to the very beginning when we were talking about the academic definition of queerbaiting, brought on again by Joseph Brennan. So, Brennan is known for his academic research on fandom, LGBT culture, and also pornography, a term created in a negative narrative by media fans to criticize a marketing tactic that implicitly uses content relevant to the LGBTQ community to attract media consumers. Brennan also points out the typical limitations of mainstream queer readings that often misuse or even misdirect the interpretation of homoeroticism via the term queerbaiting. Later on, another scholar that we researched on, Fathala, in 2021, popularized this as a tactic used in performing entertainment.
The fetishization of queerness in the music industry is evident. The two journals connect the limitations of mainstream queer readings, movies, and music that often misuse or misdirect in their interpretation of homoeroticism. The two journals being Brennan and Fathala. The second problem occurs when female artists are being represented and their image is distorted through queerbaiting or stereotypes. As a result, for these women to get into mainstream music, they're faced with social barriers based on stereotypical assumptions about how their music should sound to Western audiences and how they should dress or act to please popular music audience.
Oh wow, that's so interesting. I've never thought about it like that, actually.
Yeah, me neither. There really is a lack of queer representation and insufficient activism within the popular music industry, and even more especially so in the hip hop industry. I guess this can be another reason why you guys know the artist Young M.A.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everyone was so surprised to find out that she was female identifying. And I think this was one of the reasons as well.
Oh wow, that's so cool. I mean, I would never know that if I didn't do this research into this topic. Like this would be the topic that I would never thought that I can dig up so many problems and so many interesting findings like this.
So true. And it's still not limited to just women identifying artists. Like there have been issues even with, famous artists such as Harry Styles being accused of queer baiting as well.
That's so true.
So now we're going to do a summary of 10 interview questions of autoethnography and discuss the results. So for the first answer, we got that concerts that we have been to are around 6 to 10 each.
And for the question 2, regarding the diversity in the audience at concerts, we learned that it depends largely on whether the type of music of that specific artist matches the audience preference, and also the type of audience the artist aim to target. We also noticed that for K-pop groups, the audience was extremely diverse. But for Caucasian artists concert, for example, Harry Styles and Jack Harlow, they were mostly white women in the audience.
For question 3, what we all noticed is that the concert's atmosphere is an overall immersive experience. And by that, we mean that everyone there is just immersed in the music. singing along with the artists, and people just go to concerts because of the music they like and not necessarily about the singer's racial background. Ethnicity and gender are then irrelevant to the decision-making process.
In terms of advertising, for question number 4, we received mixed answers to this question. Kaitlyn and Lynn agreed that there are more women in commercial advertisements than men, and said that men are cast more than women as they appear more in general categories. Women are only cast for commercials advertising a product catered specifically to the female needs.
And regarding our tendency to buy products based on influencers, we would buy products endorsed by our personal favorite artists. We concluded that we are somewhat influenced by our artists' social and cultural representation.
For question 6, Kaitlyn answers was the advertising companies push the image of sexiness on their products in hopes for more women buy it to look like the woman in the ad. It makes me feel like it's a product in society solely here or to change the way I look at to please the male gaze. I'm very intrigued by this answer, particularly, especially how Kaitlyn mentioned that advertising industry is changing the way we looked at advertisement. For Lynn answers, she said that the advertising industry has become conscious of the sexualization of women's clothing and has selected a less sexualized image. It's somewhat a controversial question that we have different opinions to it. And this can leave some of us feeling that somehow these sexualized images are attacking our own insecurities.
Yeah, it's very interesting to look at it from that approach.
Yeah, like we all have different like point of views and experience on what we saw on the advertisement on the street, right?
Yeah, all of us. For number 7, do you see the differences in their outfits in the music videos comparing women of color artists and white women artists?
So for me, I noticed that the majority of women of color focused videos are over sexualized and feature the sexiest attire. As we saw above, that this is not always the reality, but for the vast majority of people, it has been the experience.
Yeah,
What about you, Lynn?
same as me. So I've been like looking through all of like the music videos I've seen before, and mostly women of colors has like their outfit is more over sexualized, namely like Cardi B, Nicki Minaj, and Rihanna. And there's like a phenomenon of wearing shorts and skinny attire in the K-pop industry as well. So in terms of white women artists like Taylor Swift, for example, I've seen more casual clothes, but
like not that revealing,
not that revealing. So I think mostly it based on the meaning of the song as well.
Yeah.
Like not every song will including all like sexy clothes.
So that being said, do you find that you're attracted to a music video with wild, bold outfits or like more meaningful lyrics?
For me, I did not pay attention to those details in order to be attracted. I focus more on like the catchiness of the song and the melody at first. But for artists that has like more sexy outfit, I will be a little bit like, oh wow, like what's that? Like I was surprised at first.
Yeah, true. What about you, Kaitlyn? Are you attracted to an MV because of its outfits or its lyrics?
I would say it's a little bit of a mix of both. You know, sometimes you see like clips on the internet of like a really cool shot in a music video when someone's wearing a really cool outfit, and I'll want to check it out. And plus, a lot of the music I like is not in my native language, English. So sometimes I don't even know what the lyrics mean or what they say. So I think it's a little bit both for me.
Yeah. Like sometimes all we can do is just to like see what's on the music video to make sense of the song, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, for question 9, how do we feel about music videos with artists dressed in provocative outfits? I guess we just mentioned it for like the last piece that we just talked about. Okay, for question 10, queerness, especially of women, is used as a tactic to get viewership. So do you guys agree with this depictions in the music industries? Have you ever seen one, or If so, how ethical do you think this tactic is?
I definitely think that it has become more prominent in the last decade as queer baiting has become more popular and a lot broader audiences. I definitely think it's unethical, especially when a lot of countries in the world still have illegal for LGBTQ, and it's just taking advantage of that.
Yeah, I completely agree. I remember I read one of our literature, and one scholar mentioned that the queerness that the artist is representing is, for some artists, queer is what they do on stage and not who they are essentially. So I noticed that in movies or TV shows or music videos, especially, intentionally display some female queerness through physical touch or from a certain camera angles, that even though the plot does not clarify if there is such feelings or attractions or not, they still depict it as like something is going on the scene.
Yeah, and I also like agree with this statement. I feel like the phenomenon of pink washing, where you use LGBT community as a tactic to approach audience. And I think like the media use queerness to promote their envies as they know how this community is strong and proud. And as a result, people within the LGBT community will tend to share less contents, hence increasing the viewership. And I think that is so unethical tactic as it takes advantage of the community itself to get more views. And it is hard to replace the genuine in the content creators are not part of the communities. Instead of using the creator to get views, I think they should simply just show it as usual way, like someone is straight is singing about like the love song. They should just use like ordinary love, normal storyline instead of cooperating LGBT if they are not part of the
community. I totally agree with that.
And they should also give the platform to actual queer artists and actors in that case instead of like faking it.
And I have watched like one of the MVs from Vietnam singer, and she is like part of the LGBT community, and she is doing a short MVs interviewing like many LGBT couples, and I feel like that is like a really touching campaign, and also that's like a good way collaborating with LGBT community to like spread awareness about how beautiful it is within the LGBT community.
So that's like you just gave us an example of how it should be, how ethical it should be.
Yeah, that's right.
And not like just taking advantage of it. Okay, cool. So what are your thoughts? What are you guys' thoughts after answering these 10 questions? Is there anything that stands out to you, Kaitlyn?
Yeah, definitely. There's tons of things that really stand out for me, especially the over-sexualization of women of color, especially like the popular artists. And that was really shocking to me, but also not shocking to me at the same time, if that makes sense.
What do you mean? Can you elaborate?
Of course, yes. It's like you know that the top music videos are going to have tons and tons of views, and it's not always about the music. Sometimes it is about the sexiness of the artist. And we all know that sex sells is a very popular tactic that the media uses in every kind of marketing, including music videos.
Yeah, I totally get that.
That interesting insight. The most standing out is like how I learned about queerbaiting. That's a really interesting topic.
Yeah.
We should talk more about that, and we should have like more studies about how people using LGBT community to like promoting their MVs, even though like they are not part of the LGBT community. That is also like a new phrase for me to learn after this research design. And
for me, I just realized one thing, that noticed that in concerts, people don't go because of their artist background or racial backgrounds. They just probably go because of the music they like and their preferences. And when people at concerts and they just immerse themselves in the music, and the artists also are on stage and they're immerse themselves in their music, and all they do is to convey their thoughts and feelings through the music they make to the audience. And diversity in the audience attending concerts does not depend on the artists themselves, like I mentioned before, and rather on the types of music that they play. And what's more is that I noticed that the majority of women of color focused videos are overly sexualized and feature the most sexy attire. And I personally think that sexy outfits are undeniable factors to make a lot of music videos famous.
Yeah, so I think just to like wrap up what we've talked about so many different concepts relating to women and the LGBTQ community and entertainment and music. I think just looking at the Billboard charts, it's just so clear that BIPOC women are super underrepresented, especially in the Asian community.
Yeah, we've definitely got a long way to go to get women of color into the Billboard charts.
Yeah, totally. And like even within the LGBTQ plus community, queerbaiting is a super hot topic right now, and they use it for marketing to attract customers, which is just so wrong because there's already such a huge lack of queer representation in music, and now it's being marketed completely inappropriately. It rubs me the wrong way, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. So, lastly, we would love to introduce some recommendations on how we can address the problems that we've stated above. And some conclusions that we've come to are breaking down barriers at record labels and music publishing companies so that women of color and 2S LGBTQ plus artists will be more easily represented, and also allowing for creative freedom in music videos and outfits so that these women can, if they would like to be sexualized in their videos, they have the free will to, but they should be able to choose and not just be a product for their record labels.
Yes, I completely agree. In the article, race and gender-based underrepresentation of creative contributors, the authors also talk about how women make up the like more than 50% of the population, but yet the music industry is only 39% of these women of colors. And so that we feel like these recommendations, by breaking down the barriers at record labels and music publishing companies, women of color and the LGBTQ plus artists will be more easily represented, and they will have more opportunities for their music to be heard the right way.
Totally agree. We can only hope that these changes will be made in the future for our next generation of women of color artists with big dreams.
All right. Thank you for everyone for participating in this podcast. Kaitlyn, Shelby, I know that Lynn is kind of sick, so she cannot contribute, but thank you everyone for listening, and I hope you guys already have a good semester and looking forward to a even greater semester going into the winter. I hope you guys enjoy this podcast as much as we did making them.